The Arch of Constantine, which stands in the shadow of the Colosseum, is one of Rome's most visible monuments, peered at and dutifully photographed by millions of tourists each year. At first glance, the arch is a straightforward monument, a celebration of imperial victory, like the arches of Titus and Septimius Severus in the Forum. But a closer look reveals a remarkably complex message crafted in the uncertain years immediately after Constantine's victory at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. Constantine's career grew out of the Tetrarchy, the college of four emperors set up by Diocletian. Constantius Chlorus, Constantine's father, was one of the men Diocletian chose to help him govern the empire. As a boy, Constantine was sent to Diocletian's court at Nicomedia, where he was tutored by eminent scholars, and accompanied Diocletian and Galerius on campaigns against the Persians. After Diocletian abdicated, Constantine rejoined his father, who was then campaigning in northern Britain. In 306, when Constantius suddenly died, his army proclaimed Constantine their new emperor. Maxentius, the son of Maximian, another of Diocletian's co-emperors, was born a few years after Constantine. Raised in the imperial court at Milan, he was groomed to succeed his father, and, though passed over in Diocletian's succession plans, he was declared emperor in Rome a few months after Constantine. For the remainder of the decade, Constantine governed Britain, Spain, and Gaul, and Maxentius ruled Italy and North Africa. At first, relations between the two were amicable, not least because Constantine had married Maxentius's sister. But tensions gradually mounted. Neither man was content with his share of the empire, and each stood to benefit from the other's removal. And so, in 311, Maxentius declared war on Constantine. Constantine invaded Italy the following spring. With a relatively small army, he had only about 30,000 men. He crossed the Alps, scattered the forces guarding the cities of northern Italy, and marched on the ancient capital. Maxentius sallied forth to meet him, and the emperors met at the Milvian Bridge, just north of Rome. Our two sources for what happened next, both produced decades later by Christian authors, present different accounts. According to one author, Constantine was instructed in a dream the night before the battle to set a Christian emblem on his soldiers' shields. The other author reports that Constantine experienced a vision of the cross while marching, which was explained in a dream the following night. It is clear, in any case, that Constantine instructed his soldiers to mark their shields with a Christian emblem, either a cross or the Christogram, a symbol consisting of the superimposed letters chi and rho, the first two letters of Christos, Christ in Greek. The following day, Constantine won a resounding victory over Maxentius. The victory at the Milvian Bridge started Constantine along his path to patronage of, and eventual membership in, the Christian Church. Within a few months, he would issue the famous Edict of Milan, which proclaimed full toleration of the Christian faith and the restoration of all church property seized in Diocletian's Great Persecution. Before we continue, a brief word about this video's sponsor. If you are planning to visit the Arch of Constantine and Rome's other ancient wonders, I recommend Through Eternity Tours. In addition to their best-selling tours of the Colosseum and Vatican, Through Eternity offers a range of itineraries which take in everything from the Forum and Nero's Golden House to sites not found in any guidebook. If you'd like to experience Rome with Through Eternity's expert guides, use the discount code ToldenStone2023 to save 5% on your purchase of any group or private tour. See the video description for a link and additional details. Immediately after his victory, Constantine entered Rome in triumph and was acclaimed by the Senate. He spent the next 3 years in the city, where he disbanded the Praetorian Guard, completed Maxentius's public works, and began a massive program of church building. In 313, he tore down the barracks of Maxentius's cavalry guards, gave the land to the Bishop of Rome, and began building the Church of St. John Lateran. A few years later, he financed the construction of the first St. Peter's Basilica over the traditional site of the Apostles' tomb. In 315, the final year of Constantine's residence in Rome, a monumental arch was constructed to commemorate his defeat of Maxentius and liberation of Rome. Though nominally erected by the Senate, the arch's design was almost certainly orchestrated by Constantine himself, and so provides a unique glimpse into the emperor's public image at a crucial point in his career. The most distinctive feature of the Arch of Constantine is its extensive use of spolia, that is, of sculptures and other elements taken from older monuments. To some degree, this was a matter of convenience. The arch was built quickly, and there was plenty of material from decommissioned monuments lying in storage. The chief motivation for the inclusion of spolia, however, seems to have been to associate Constantine with the great emperors of the past. The statues and relief panels reused in the arch came from monuments constructed by Trajan, Hadrian, and Marcus Aurelius, three of Rome's greatest rulers. Although all of the emperors in the reused pieces were recarved to resemble Constantine, no attempt was made to disguise the contrast between their style and that of the cruder new reliefs beneath them. The spolia of Constantine's arch may have been intended to offset the impression made by Constantine's radical religious policies. Rome would not be a majority Christian city until at least the late 4th century, and some members of the senatorial aristocracy would remain resolutely pagan for decades longer. The arch, accordingly, makes no explicit reference to Christianity. Even the inscription is ambiguous. Constantine, it says, gained victory over Maxentius instinctu divinitatis, by the inspiration of the divine, without clarifying which god or gods was doing the inspiring. In 315, Constantine left Rome and would only return once in the remaining 22 years of his reign. Over the next decade, he would defeat Licinius, his sole remaining rival, and become the first man in 40 years to govern the entire Roman Empire. He brought Diocletian's military and financial reforms to their logical conclusions, establishing highly mobile field armies and a stable gold currency. Constantine also became increasingly invested in Christian theology and unity, calling the Council of Nicaea the first ecumenical council of the Church. There, under the emperor's direction, 300 bishops declared that God the Father and God the Son were equal, and a precedent was established for the coordination of church and state authority. Equally pivotal for Roman history was Constantine's establishment of Constantinople, a new Christian Rome on the Bosporus. In the final years of his reign, this was his capital. It was near Constantinople that Constantine was finally baptized at age 65. Many early Christians deferred baptism until the end of their lives, and Constantine was no exception. Feeling a serious illness overtaking him, he summoned bishops from the surrounding cities and asked them to perform the ritual. A few days later, during the festival of Pentecost, he died. When the news reached Rome, a painting was hung in the Senate House, showing the emperor's entry into heaven. The god or gods to whom that heaven belonged, however, were left diplomatically unclear. If you're interested in more Told Stone content, including my podcast, check out my channel, Told Stone Footnotes. I also have a channel called Scenic Routes of the Past, which is dedicated to historically themed travel. You'll find both channels linked in the description. Please consider joining other viewers and supporting Told Stone on Patreon. You might also enjoy my book, Naked Statues, Fat Gladiators, and War Elephants. Thanks for watching.